So yeah, that able to change off and down now as you can see I've got to do remove them 10 drive. So anyway, let's get it assembled. Well, how are we all? I hope we're doing well. We've got a little 2015 Ford Fiesta 1 litre Ecoboost, and we're going to be doing a wet belt replacement on it. Now, for those that are going to ask, this vehicle has only done 71,000 miles. Now the first thing that we're going to be doing is disconnecting the battery negative first, and then we're going to get ourselves a lovely little prop, because that bonnet stay is going to be in our way, so we'll just pull that out of the way and then we can make a start. Get in, and we can make a start then on removing all that intake system. Now with all that intake pipe at the back there out of the way, we're going to put it in a nice little neat pile. We're going to get ourselves a little airline now. I'm going to give everything a bit of a blowout. And get all that debris from round there, down there. Now I've gone ahead, I've removed the coil packs, some of the wiring loom to the fuel injectors, some of the wiring loom around the sided to all the cam sensors and one thing and another. Now one thing I have been asked a few times is, how do you get these fuel rails off? Well, they are very tight to get off. Just have to persuade with them, work them back and two, and they will pop off. And when they do, they're going to split in two. The rail's going to come off and leave them injectors in place. Be careful that the green O-rings stay where they are, or just be careful that they don't come out in there. But you need to keep your eye on them and don't lose them. Now with everything out of the way, now we can go ahead and remove the rocker cover itself. Now over the years I've done many of these timing belts, and you have to remove the rocker cover, and these bolts at the back, sometimes they can corrode, and if they do corrode, you're in for a bit of a job, because it can be a bit of a nightmare. Now once that rocker cover is out of the way, through a little bit of experience with these engines, this is looking in relatively good condition. Even the belt doesn't look bad. Now I know for a fact, I've been speaking to the customer this morning, that he religiously services this engine every 6,000 miles with the genuine correct oil for the vehicle. Now I have done enough of these engines to put my hand on my heart and say, I think that these belts for failing is all down to servicing. Have a look through all my videos. I've done some from 40,000 which are in a bad condition, and I've done high mileage ones that are in a really good condition, all because they've been serviced correctly or serviced early. Now I am in a position where I now need to take the catalytic converter off, and to do that you've got to take the air conditioning pump off. You don't need to degas the system. I'm in a position that I can take the gas out, and I'm going to be removing the air conditioning pump along with a few little pipes that run down the side of the engine here. Like I said, you don't have to. This is something that I do just to make it a little bit easier for myself. Now if you haven't come across this already, these bolts going into the turbo, they can pull the threads, so what I suggest you do is use a tiny little bit of lubrication, and I'm going to be using the Launch Power Lube Plus. It's absolutely insane stuff that is, and take your time with them coming out, otherwise you're going to damage it and it'll turn into a big job. Once I got the vehicle up in the air, now we've removed the cover along the alternator belt, taken the alternator belt off. Now we just need to remove this idler pulley and the tensioner. While we're just up in this area, now we can work our way around now to removing the aircon pump. Now with that air conditioning pump off, what I'm going to try and do to stop any moisture going in the system, which you don't really want, especially on an aircon, get some little bungs and just bung the ends up, and that'll stop all the moisture getting sucked in, and on the pipes on the body as well. Now what we need to do is drain the coolant out and then drop the engine back down, and then we can take the 4 bolts out of the turbine. Now with that catalyst out of the way, we need to go ahead now and remove the sump. Before we do, we're just going to drain the oil into our lovely little receptacle. We're going to get on our 8 mils now and take all them bolts off while it's draining. Now with all that oil drained out, we're going to get ourselves a little pry bar now, and and we're going to prise the sump off. Now be extra careful with it because you don't want to be damaging it. Now it shouldn't really take much to get off. A little bit of a wiggle and a jiggle and a pokery. It will just come off like that. Now remember me saying at the beginning of the video, this engine has been well looked after and serviced every 8,000 miles. That pickup in there, I don't know if you can see, it is like brand new. It does help servicing them, you know. Right, let's get this engine timed up. Now the timing kit that I'm going to be using, that I use on all these wet belts, is a laser tool 6952. Let me open it up. We've got all the camshaft locking tools, the crankshaft locking tool, and also the crankshaft timing pin, which I'm going to show you now where this goes. Just behind the dry shaft, by there, you take a little 10mm bolt out, and that should slide in. Can you see it going through the crank there? Like so. And whenever you're using these timing tools, make sure that they are very, very tight. Don't just finger them in and think, oh, that'll do, that'll do. They've got to be tight. Now get your 21mm now on the crank, and you should see the crank coming round and locking up on that webbing. Can you see? Here we go. There we go. That crankshaft now is timed up. Now I've got the car back down to working height, let's go and lock these camshafts up. Now these camshaft tools, they do sit on top of the lobes, and they are marked up inlet and exhaust. Make sure again that you tighten them down. You do not want these wobbling loose. Right, now we've got to take the start motor off and put the crankshaft holding tool in. Now that is a must, you have to do that. Now you can get the 13 from the top here and then the bottom one from underneath. Right, now that vehicle is back up in the air, we've removed the start motor up there and we've put the crankshaft holding tool in. Now just for my reference, you can also do this yourself if you don't do it already. Just put a few lines on the flywheel and the bell housing, just so you know that nothing's slipping. Now we need to get, now if everything's locked up, but before we do, we'll make sure that everything's tight, all your tools, I can't stress enough, because you do not want this slipping, because that bolt is stupidly tight. Now let's jump on a 21 now with a great big bar. Now another frequent question that I do get asked all the time, do you need the torque multiplier to undo that crank bolt? Yes, if you haven't got enough strength behind you, you're going to need it, but if not, get a great big bar. Now if we grab this now it is tight, very, very tight. You should be able to crack it off. There we go. The crank bolt is now out. I should put a little battery ratchet on it really. Then remove the crank pulley. Now be extra careful when you do, because that, you do not want to damage that pickup ring on the back of it. Put it down, nice and safe. Now before we take the vehicle back down, what we're going to do is undo all the lower timing belt covers, but get yourself a little piece of cardboard, because all these bolts are different lengths and different sizes, majority of them are. As you take one out, put it in the card and vice versa, and go all the way around. I tell you what, when you're doing this job, there's a lot of up and down with the lift. Now I have removed all them bolts, even the engine mount, and we put them in the cardboard like that. Beautiful, not going to get mixed up and they'll all go back in the exact same way. Now what I get asked again, I do get asked a lot of questions, you know, and I do try and reply to them as best as I can, is where do I support the engine when I take the engine mount off? Well, it's just on that dry shaft bracket there, got a little bit of a jack and it'll hold it in place. Absolutely perfect. Now let's get this timing cover off. We're going to need a little pry bar. Just go in the corner by there, you're not going to cause any damage there. Just be extra careful, don't go, you know, flat out at it. Gentle prising and it will come out, and you should catch all the coolant and your nice little receptacle. Right, let's get this timing cover off. Right, now that timing cover is off, we need to get the tensioner. Get a pair of pliers. These are wheel cap pliers. They are brilliant for doing stuff like this. On the tensioner, come round and we can just pull the belt off. Simple as that. Now all that is out the way, we need to carry out now and remove all the sealant from all around the engine block. Now how I do it is with a drill, wire brush on the end, nothing too abrasive, something nice and light, and you can give it a damn good cleaning and make sure that everything is spotless. Now during the cleaning process I'm doing these, there is a little 6mm bung with an Allen key just behind the timing cover by here, and that is the pressure feed for the turbo, and behind there there's a little filter. Now take him out and give him a damn good clean. If you don't, probably going to starve that turbo with oil, and that's not what you want to do. Right, I'm going to give this a little bit of a clean and we're going to get it put back in. Now with everything looking like brand new, and it is like brand new, an extra 5-10 minutes cleaning stuff is going to help so much. Now we're going to be putting the belt back on. We'll start with the oil pump. Now this is, and I will only use genuine belt kits for these. It's so simple to put on. I tell you what, after you've taken all this off, all this stuff, changing the belt's probably about 10 minutes. It's really simple to do, the belt is. But yeah, we're going to get these chucked back on. Right, let's get the actual timing belt on itself. Now, as long as it's taut between these two pulleys and it's nice and tight by there, this slacky bit down the bottom will sort itself out. When you pull the tensioner, because a crank pulley is free floating, just get on the pin now and pull it out, and there you go. That belt is now tensioned correctly. Now let's move around to the timing cover itself, and I have gone ahead and cleaned it all down with my wire brush on my drill and some brake and clutch cleaner, and give everywhere a bit of a blowout with the airline. Now I do like to change these rubber O-rings here. But before we put them in, we're going to put a little bit of red rubber grease and just rub it around all that O-ring. We're going to slide that in perfectly, and then we can get some sealant applied. And the sealant that we're going to be using this time, I normally use BGA stuff, but we are going to be using the genuine stuff from Ford. Now before we put this sealant on, a little tip that I'm going to tell you. The sealant tube itself, I don't know whether you can see on the closer on the black there, or the bonnet, I have put a little V in it, so as you're applying it, you'll get a nice little bead of it. Once we've put that timing cover on, we can support it back onto the chassis now with the engine mount. Now we need to start and put this crank bolt in, but before we put the pulley on, you need to get your friction washer and put that on the crank. Make sure you don't damage it. It should just slide on. Just rub your finger around it, try not to cut yourself, and make sure it is on there correctly. Now this is the most critical part. Put the crank pulley on and a brand new bolt. Now it does need to be timed up. That pin goes through that hole by there into the timing cover, and you don't want to be getting that messed up, because if that is not timed up correctly, this vehicle will not start. But before I take them apart, what I like to do is just put a little yellow marker, just as a bit of a guide, as a bit of a reference, just to help me get it all lined up. Now once you've done all that, you need to do the first stage of the tightening sequence on the crank pulley, which is 60 Newton meters, and then after that we need to couple up the torque multiplier, like so. And then what I like to do, everything's for reference, put a little blue line, because this has got to go now 5 stages of 90 degrees. And I tell you what, when you're tightening them up, it goes against everything that you've learned with your feel and snapping stuff. But yeah, we're going to do 5 stages now. Now once you finish with that torque multiplier, what I like to do is put a yellow line on the crank bolt with the timing hole. Well, that timing pin now, if you can pull it out easily and put it back in, that is perfect. And always keep an eye on all your reference marks, whatever you want to do. Right, now all I've got to do, now I've got my little apprentice Ben, to give the Sumperoonie a bit of a clean, and it is looking like brand new. Fair play to him. And we've got to put some sealant back on, and we can get it bolted back up to that block, which looks perfect. Right, well we all know by now, if you don't, if the glasses are up, we mean business. I've ploughed ahead. We've put the downpipes back on, heat shields, sump, lots of things that we've put back on. I'm just running out of time. I'm probably gonna have to finish this off tomorrow, because it is 4:45. Obviously I've had to do a few other diag jobs in between doing this, but nonetheless, yeah, we're gonna go home, I think, have a bit of a shower, have a bit of a drinkaroonie, yeah, and we'll come back in the morning. Good morning, people. We are back at it. Feeling a little bit fresh this morning. New haircut. Well, I had that yesterday. We have got, up to now, we've got the air conditioning back on, pulling a vacuum. We're going to be putting some new PAG oil in it, a UV dye, so if we ever get a leak in the future, should be able to pinpoint it with a UV light. We've got my vacuum and refill system just on the coolant at the minute. Now I am waiting for a new rocker cover gasket to turn up, because I did order one and it came wrong, but never mind, it should be here this morning. So yeah, that's where I'm up to. At last, we have now got the new rocker cover gasket. I'm going to get this chucked on and this rocker cover and all built back up. Right, well there you go, that car now is all back together. Before we go for the first initial start, what we're going to do is leave the coil packs disconnected, get on the key and make sure all that oil pressure builds up, and the pressure in the fuel rail as well. Right, well everything now is coupled up. All we're going to do is get on the key and hopefully, fingers crossed, it starts. Well, to be honest with you, it's got two choices in it. It either starts or it doesn't. Let's get this camera now stuck on the bonnet and get on the key. There we go, it is alive. Now with the car running up in the air, we are constantly monitoring the live data, the temperature, engine speed and blah blah blah. We're just going to go around now. The car has been running for about 20 minutes or so, and we're just checking for leaks anywhere. Air conditioning is working as it should do. Absolutely perfect. We've also put a brand new oil filter on it up the back there. Right, well I'm not going to hold you on any longer. It's been it's probably the longest video I've done. I'm happy with the vehicle. There's a little bit of smoke coming off from the turbo where I sprayed the lubricant to get the manifold stud, but we're not worried about that, because that will just burn off. Now I'm going to take the car down the road for a little bit of a test drive. You don't need to see that. It's going to be perfect. It's going to be perfect. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video, and please stick to servicing these Ecoboosts as soon as possible, perhaps every 8,000 miles or so. And there you go. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Let's get it sent.